Is your restaurant killing your family? Here's how to fix it before it tears you apart. So in this video, I'm going to share with you 3 tips on how to make your home life and your work-life balance better, because let's face it, as restaurant owners, we often struggle. I'm going to give you 3 tips that you can put into action right away to make this better. So when I was starting out, I had no idea how to run my restaurant. And I remember my wife at the time basically asked me, Andrew, how come when someone calls in sick, you have to go in? Because she came from more of like an employee mindset of when she wasn't working, she wasn't working. But all of a sudden it just happened where how come you have to go in? How come you have to go and fix it? And I said, well, there's no one else. Who else is going to show up and do it? Or all of a sudden, if the business wasn't making any money, well, how come you have to not pay yourself? How come somebody else, can't take a cut? I'm like, well, we have to pay our employees. She just didn't get that everything that I had to do, I felt like I was forced to do. And I just felt like, okay, it's just the business. This is just the way it is. And this is what I have to do to make it better. And I kept telling myself that, it'll get better someday. The business will get better. Things will happen and it'll be okay. And we'll eventually get through this. But it was years and years and years before I finally figured out how to make it better. It didn't just magically get better. I actually had to change a few things to make this happen. And so I see a lot of people struggle with this day to day. And even if they do get time off from the business, I notice that what they tell me is that it's like they're home, but they're really not home. Their mind is still thinking about work, or they're still getting texts or calls or emails from work, or things are still happening. And then I've had so many, wives and husbands tell us that have worked with us before, basically how it's been great eventually because finally their spouses are present when they're home. They don't have to worry about work anymore. So I want to show you a few quick ways that you can make that happen. So number 1, this is going to sound counterintuitive, but what I want you to do is actually monitor your food and your labor costs. The reason why that's one of the number 1 things I want to point out here is because if you don't monitor something, you can't control what you don't monitor, at the end of the day, we need to know what we're spending in business. I have so many people that I talk to that they have no idea what their food and their labor costs are. They don't know what they should be either, right? So what they end up doing is they just try to figure it out, and they just hope that there's money that's going to go in the bank account. Well, hope isn't a strategy. So number 1, you need to have prime costs, which is your food and labor together, of roughly 60%. My target's 55%, but for most people, if you're in the 60-ish range, that's not a bad place to be. So you need to monitor it every single week. What are you spending on food? What are you spending on labor? And this will give you the financial knowledge to know, hey, am I overspending on labor? Am I overspending on food? Where is the problem? So you know what you need to fix. Because a lot of times, what happens is people end up going into business and they have no idea what their costs are. And then the only way they can try and make things work is by cutting their own salary or working more to try and compensate themselves to save on labor. But if you're tracking your costs, you're actually going to know when there's a problem. And so you can actually change that before you get to the point of trying to, taking these actions to make things better. So that's number 1. Now, number 2 is you actually need to have proper systems in your business. And so what I mean by that is if every employee is supposed to turn on the open sign in the morning, that should be on a list somewhere. If they're supposed to mop the floor at night, that should be on a list somewhere. And not just turn on open sign or not just mop floor. We actually want it to be specific. So I'll give you an example. We had this one person that signed off the clean bathroom mirror checklist, right? Because we had it written down. Okay, you got to clean, the floors, you've got to clean the toilets, you've got to, all that kind of stuff, right? So what happened was it wasn't specific enough because she ended up taking degreaser and trying to clean the mirror. And I'm like, has no one ever told you how to clean a mirror before? Apparently not. So anyway, takes this degreaser and cleans the mirror and it makes it all foggy. And so the next morning I come in, I'm doing my checks on everything. And sure enough, it looked worse than if she hadn't even tried to clean it. So I texted her and I said, hey, you got to use Windex and paper towel, to do this task. She's like, I had no idea. Nobody ever trained me on it. I'm like, well, crap. Okay, let's fix that. So we changed the checklist to say clean bathroom mirror with Windex and paper towel. So we just made it extremely clear. Now, everything in your business needs to be that clear because you want someone to be able to walk in who has never worked in your restaurant before and be able to kind of see how things should go and get most of it. And if people don't do it, you ask them, hey, Was there anything confusing about the way this is written? Well, no. Okay, great. So either you do it or we're going to find somebody that will, right? So that is the accountability. But you have to have clarity before you can have accountability. So everything needs to be documented in your business. I know it sounds like a lot of work, but it is extremely important, because otherwise, most restaurant owners, what I've seen happen in the past, is they have everything in their head and they know all the things to do, but nobody else does. So how the heck are they supposed to do it if they don't know what they should be doing? You can't have an expectation that's not documented, because nobody's going to freaking know about it. How are they going to do it? So we need to have everything documented, and we need to train people on how to properly do it. Most people's training is like, oh, go shadow this person, or oh, go and do that. But we actually need to have a training process, and we need to actually measure the success rate of our training process. Are people getting it? Are they learning the things that they need to know? The story I use for this one is we had smoothies, sandwiches, and salads. That's what we served in my restaurant. So I remember this girl had been there for 3 months. I was running the till, and I called out an order. I said, hey, I need a strawberry banana smoothie. I called out an order to the grill, so they'd start firing that. And so basically, she looked at me and said, Andrew, I've never made a smoothie before. I'm like, we serve 3 products. How have you never made a smoothie before? You've been here for 3 months. That's when I realized that there was a major deficiency in our training. So if you have people coming up to you saying, oh, I don't know how to do that, or no one ever showed me that, or if you come in and things are done wrong and they're like, well, Billy does it this way and nobody ever showed it. Like, that's the kind of symptoms that mean that you actually don't have the proper systems in your business, because if the systems were there, people would be more likely to follow it. And if they don't follow it, then you find new people who will follow it. That's basically how employment works, right? You need to find people that can do the job. But the thing is, if you're trying to find people and you don't have the right systems, they're not going to come in knowing all this stuff. And so you're setting them up to fail, right? So that's why we need to have that in place. And that's why it actually will start to cut down on you having all these emergency texts and phone calls. Where's the toilet paper? Where's this? Well, they would have been trained on it. And so that's how they know what to do in those situations. So that is the second one. And then the third one is having the right leadership in place. And so this means if you have some people that have some leadership potential, start delegating some stuff to them. Because here's what I hate. I hate to see restaurant owners, and I hear this far too often, restaurant owners will literally go on vacation and they'll come back and they won't even have really enjoyed their vacation because they're getting so many emergency calls and texts. I even had one person that I talked to where their staff just shut down the whole restaurant while they were gone. And some owners actually do shut down the restaurant so they can have peace while they're on vacation. Your business should run without you. And so what I want you to know is that when you are there and you are doing everything, you don't fully realize all the stuff that you're contributing. You don't realize all the little tasks you do. You don't realize all the little things that happen when you're there. And because you were there and you do all of those things, what ends up happening is when you leave, no one does them because no one knows how to do it. No one knows that they should do it because you're the one that has always done it. Right? So you come back and it's a shit show and nobody knows what the heck's going on. It takes you a week to clean up the mess, to get things back the way they were. And you're like, well, I'm just never going to take a vacation again. Or you think your staff are all terrible, but it's you that have actually set them up for this. So that's an important piece to know, is your business is actually a reflection of you, right? It's a reflection of you and the things that you focus on. So if you focus on doing everything yourself, great, things will run well when you're there. If you focus on great training, guess what? Your team will then carry that on and be able to do the right things when you're not there. If you focus on the finances, you will have a more profitable business, right? So where your focus goes, money flows is an easy way to think about this. So coming back to the leadership point, you need to actually make sure that you have people that when you're not there are there to take the lead, and they're able to take some things off of your plate. They're able to handle a few of the things that maybe you would do, because when they start to understand that and they start to do those things, it's going to lessen your workload. And then when you do take time off and you do actually have other things, they can take some of that on. They are not going to do it as well as you will, but that's okay. If someone can do it up to 80% as well as you would, that is okay in my mind, because with the time that you free up, you can do other things like focus on marketing or focusing on your finances that are going to make the business better. So you're trying to buy back your time a little bit and also reduce some of your stress as well. So again, monitor your finances so you don't get into this crazy thing where you have to work 80 plus hours a week to try and save labor. Number 2 is make sure you have operations and training systems in place. Number 3, have leadership in place so that you can delegate some stuff to free up your time so you can focus on the big things that are going to move the business forward and maybe even have a little bit of time back for yourself. All right, if you do those things, I'm confident that you will have a better work-life balance. Your family will thank you, and you'll be able to actually enjoy the time with your family. And if you would like some help with this, I'm happy to work with you on it. We've helped over 500 restaurant owners do exactly that, make more money in their restaurants, have more freedom with their time, and even open up more locations. So if you need some help, happy to walk you through this, but I hope this was helpful, and we'll see you soon.